Remember that you can find this podcast episode on Earmark, where you can get free CPE for your education needs. So thank you, Earmark, for your support. Welcome to the Concierge CPA. I'm Jackie Meyer, founder of the Concierge Accountant Program and Tax Ben IQ software. This is a podcast for accounting firm owners and influencers who are pursuing world-class service. We discuss their path to excellence, their daily habits, and what influences them and their work. We believe that every person has a unique message that can positively impact the world. Stick around till the end of the show. We'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's go, y'all. Welcome to the Concierge CPA Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jackie Meyer, CPA, where we get to the bottom line for entrepreneurs and accountants. I have Chris Farrell with me today, and he is the founder and CEO of Liscio. And one of the biggest questions that I get asked all the time, or that I see asked all over social media, is, what is the best workflow system for my accounting firm? I was just pulling through my Facebook group, Accounting Firm Influencers, and I think it dominates probably 30 to 40% of questions. The answer is probably a little surprising though. And so I'd love to, first of all, hear a little bit more about you, your background, and then let's dive into that question. What is the best workflow system for accounting firms and why? So welcome.
Thank you, Jackie. Great to be here. Wonderful to be on. A little bit about me. I'm a CPA. I started my career with Arthur Andersen way back when, and I went into private industry, was a public company CFO, and I've also been obviously a client of CPAs for many years. I've been on both sides of the table.
Sure.
And really, my experience since then has been in software. So for the last 15 years, I've been building software for accountants. My former companies included Tally and Spring Ahead, and now I'm with Liscio.
Awesome. Okay. So let's get right into it, the meat of what everyone probably wants to know as they're like, oh, okay, interviewing a workflow founder. And then I'll tell you my answer to this question as well. Other than your product being the best of the best of the best, right? How do you answer that question for people? What is the best workflow solution for my accounting firm?
The best one is one that works for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
really, and here's the deal. You know, as a client of a CPA for many years, I can say from experience that the better the client you are of the firm, the worse the client experience gets. You end up getting a whole bunch of different portals. You end up working with a lot of different staff members. Things start getting trapped in email silos. They get trapped in text messages, you know, and then files, et cetera, get scattered across a whole bunch of different endpoints. And so the lesson there is, if your client can't use what you're giving them and isn't really efficient, no matter what your back office process is, you're always be waiting for the client. And that's where most of the problems that firms are facing stand.
That is a really, really succinct and positive message right there. So my answer was, it depends on your non-negotiables. But really, at the end of the day, I like your answer better, because at the end of the day, the client experience is what matters the most for retention purposes, for client satisfaction, and for escalating the collection of information, right? So I love that. I think there's something probably in the middle of there. I know when I have evaluated or switched between workflow providers, I just start a Google Sheet and I'm like, here's my non-negotiables of things I need. And maybe the first is the client experience, right? Like, what are we looking for there that's going to maximize that for our clients? And then number two becomes, if they have a great e-organizer, for example. And I know y'all have been making a lot of strides in that area. Tell our listeners and viewers about what you're doing there.
Sure. I think it all stems kind of going back to the client experience angle. If we treat everything like our banks treat us, which is one single place to go, one simple login, and all the tools you need are in one single portal, we're going to start doing what we do in our banking lives, which is we're going to spend a lot less time bothering the tellers and so forth at the bank, and we're going to start self-servicing. And so every tool we build now goes behind that single portal concept. And so an electronic organizer, for example, which most firms are having to spend a couple of hours, preparing them, mailing them, chasing them down, and so forth, and maybe only getting half of them back if they're lucky. We're replacing that with a very, very simple organizer people can do literally just on their phone, on their tablet, wherever they are. And it's all very simple questions, yes, no, NA, conditionals, and personalized for all the data and the documents they had in the prior year. So literally moving it from a couple of hours to get an organizer back to a couple of minutes. And it's really, really simple. So it really kind of flows from that same thing though, which is good internet software will be embraced by clients. That's what they're thirsting for. And I think we're finally at that age where the profession gets that.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, we had nothing. Now it feels like there's a plethora of solutions, but it's kind of overwhelming with all the different features and functions and whatnot. I guess you could say that about a lot of different accounting type softwares now. But what would you say makes you unique when it comes to all of the options out there?
Sure. Well, it kind of starts with our name, Liscio, right? Liscio in Italian means smooth. So our goal since day one has been really about making things smooth for clients. And in turn, if everything's going well with your client, your staff are feeling really pretty good as well, right? And so it was this idea that if we gave clients the modern internet, and if you think about, for example, what goes on a tax organizer, it's a bunch of yes, no questions and then give me a bunch of documents, right? Modern internet is very, very good at that kind of thing. It's just that most of the software we've been contending with doesn't look and doesn't feel like it's easy to use. And so kind of starting from that premise, what we wanted to do was to automate a lot of that busy work by personalizing everything very, very simply. So we take a lot of what firms do today, which is prepare or send an organizer from their tax software. We'll go ahead and read all of that. And then when we read all of it, we'll use it to personalize the requests that go out to clients and then send it. So, really, that's what starts to set us apart, which is instead of having a bunch of different systems, one different system for each part of the firm, we put everything behind one single client touch point. That means clients get a chance to actually form a habit. So if they want to go find something, they know it's going to be in that one place. Whereas before with a lot of portals, what they did was they had maybe the files there, but the communication, the emails, the secure messages, the text messages would all be outside of it. So the client wouldn't know which pocket to look in. They don't know which pocket to look in. They start calling the firm, and the firm suddenly goes from having a pretty smooth workday to having to do all this, password resetting, asking their peers where documents and messages are and so forth. Instead, we make all that transparent. We, sync with their email system, Gmail or Outlook. We put all the client information in one single secure portal. We actually can gather text message replies from clients using business text messaging. Cool. And then we can use a lot of personalized requests to really tailor the experience of the client. So all of a sudden chaos, around all the client communication and all the admin turns into, a pretty simple but robust experience for both the firm and the client. So very different from every other portal out there.
Yeah, that's well explained. It really does make you kind of stand out in that particular area. I remember testing Liscio when it first came out. How many years have y'all been out now?
6.
Okay,
6.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was probably about 5 years ago. And I remember that your strategy when you log in, you're always curious, how much are they going to integrate with third-party type stuff versus try to reinvent the wheel on their own? And I was impressed with how you integrated with like Google Drive and kind of third-party systems and whatnot. Has that changed over the years, or are you still doing a lot of third-party integrations?
We want to integrate with third parties, and here's really the crux. Everybody's tired of having more software. I haven't met an accountant in the last 10 years that said, "Hey, give me more software, right, please." Right? And oh, by the way, I'm dying to change how I do things in the back office. Right? Nobody ever says that. And so what we really wanted to do, and what we learned, Jackie, was it's really important. It's incredibly important to make it very, very easy for the firm. So what we focus on now is within a half day, if a firm can make a one person for 4 hours across, a day, a week, a month, if they can make that investment, we'll save them hundreds of hours during busy season. And so the idea there, and really the core premise that you already picked up on, is this: putting in Liscio is easy because we don't make you change your back office systems. You're going to use the same tax software. You're going to use the same practice management software. You're going to use the same document management software you're using today. But what you're going to get is you're going to get a responsive client front end that's really kind of quarterbacking and managing the front office or the front desk of the firm, if you will, the digital front desk, that allows you to get the information in on time, accurately, and in a very simple way that you can then pass over to the rest of your back office systems. So 4 hours saves you a ton. The cost is really low. It's usually a 10x ROI inside of the first couple of months.
Wow. And do you have case studies on your website and stuff like that kind of talk through that?
We got a bunch that are coming out now that
Awesome.
we have a whole bunch of new functionality, but you'll be seeing more of us. We just got one of the top app awards in Accounting Today.
Oh, congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's simple, right? The whole point is it should be really, really simple. But we have a lot of firms, and you'll see some of the case studies, 60 to 80% reduction in admin time.
Wow.
Which I think when we consider where the profession's going and how exciting it's going to be, and I'll go on record for this. It's going to be really, really exciting and insanely wildly profitable and rewarding to be an accountant going forward, more so than in the past.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. Why is that in your perspective?
When I started with Arthur Andersen, again, we're dating myself here, but I came right out of accounting school and went to work in Arthur Andersen, San Jose, which is where a lot of their tech practice was. And nobody told me when I was going through my accounting education that most of my job was going to be babysitting clients, making copies and doing a ton of admin work. I thought I would be doing accounting, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the case. And that really hasn't changed for decades, right? If you look at, for example, the tax organizer, let's just pick on that some more.
Mm-hmm.
That hasn't changed in 30 years. Tax organizer coming out of, you pick the tax software, really hasn't changed in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Tons and tons of admin. So if we think about what happens if the organizer comes back and it's in really good shape, and then there's a lot of interesting tax automation software to enter the data into whatever the tax platform is. Tax software does a lot of the work preparing the return. We review it. And then there's a lot of tax automation delivery. For example, with Liscio, you just drag the tax return in. We walk the client entirely through it. Place the signature boxes, walk the client through it, remind them of their estimated taxes. We do all of that just for a couple bucks, right? If that's the case, where's all of our time going to go? If we don't have to worry about administrating the gathering and delivery, instead we're focusing on the client and on the review and on the advisory, how awesome does accounting get? Should be super awesome.
Okay, I see your point. So you're saying, I guess to sum that up, or in other words, you're saying instead of dealing with the nonsense that you didn't even want to begin with an accounting role, you can now focus on the fun stuff, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you got into it for.
That's right. Because one of my best friends in high school, his dad was a very prominent tax accountant, super wealthy clients, pool and a tennis court in the backyard, that kind of thing, doing really well. He told us in no uncertain terms, don't ever go into tax prep, because he hated his job so much, having to chase the clients around. It wasn't doing the tax work, right? It was everything else.
Yeah.
And now that everything else is perfect for technology to take over. Technology is going to be terrible at advisory. It's going to be terrible at dealing with clients and so forth, right? Really helping them. But it's going to be great, super great at helping the clients get all the information back, signing things, et cetera. Right? That's what the modern internet does. It makes sure we show up for our dinner reservations. It makes sure we make it to the stylist on time, right? It helps us sign things wherever we are from any device. The modern internet is great for that. And so that is finally coming to accountants. And we know that clients are ready for it because they're already doing it everywhere else in their lives. So once that happens, if you're doing, let's say 200 tax returns per preparer, and it takes 3-4 hours to get all that administrative work done, that's the busy season. That's why there's so much overtime, et cetera. But if it's just preparing the tax returns, reviewing them, and making sure everything's good and talking to the clients, that's a job that can be done without overtime. And highly profitably.
Awesome. Okay. So what took you to this? You say last 15 years you've been in software. It sounds like you've had your hands in some pretty cool products. What brought you to this current one, and what kind of drove you to be like, this is the next thing that we need to work on?
Yeah, it was the key insight that if we think about where all the money is flown. All this venture capital money went into companies such as Bill.com, et cetera. Lots and lots of them, expense report companies, practice management, document management, and so forth. It was all in service to the buyer, which is the accounting firm. So everybody was trying to fix accounting from the perspective that if we fix the back office, we're good. The problem was, and the insight was, well, if the client doesn't play ball, the back office can't get going. And so we also started to see this other bit, which was we have a whole new generation of people coming through who are digital natives, right? A lot of firms are going through a transition right now where they had great clients for many years, but now they want to get the kids on, right? The kids aren't going to do what their parents did.
Sure.
So we have a generational transition. We have lack of investment in front-end tools. And we had really the movement of really everybody's internet consumption habits, regardless of demographic, is mostly mobile now, right? Retired people are on iPads, kids are on phones. There are far fewer people on desktop, when doing personal taxes, for example. So all these factors made it really obvious that client experience was going to continue to be the biggest differentiator for firms. It always has been. Client experience is what everybody hangs their hat on. But the digital experience had to catch up. And we didn't see any back office provider, for example. We haven't seen any tax software providers really close that gap. They're great at what they do, but the client has always been secondary. So that's where we saw the opportunity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And where is the future for you? What's like the next big thing? You've released the new tax organizer feature. When was that?
We started last year.
Okay.
So this will be our second year. Tax year 24 will be our second year on that platform.
Awesome.
We also, for this extension season, for tax year 23 extensions, announced tax delivery. So it's part of the tax automation bundle, which is the client can now securely message, be onboarded, do all those things they've always been able to do through Liscio. Now they can also get a customized or tailored personal organizer. We made that really, really simple. And then when the taxes are delivered, our delivery creates a custom workflow to walk them through. Like, here's what you owe, here are your forms for signature, federal and state, accept your returns and so forth, sign them. Here's what you need to pay, links out to all the various sites, or you can print your vouchers. Your estimated tax payment reminders will come through Liscio, et cetera. So it's really automating that, taking the peak out of peak busy season and helping people work a little bit less when the chips are down. So our goal really this tax season and for the next several months is to help firms not have to work overtime this year. And that'll be, that's really our goal. And we're starting to see that really come to fruition.
That's really cool. I love that goal. Okay. And so do you still have a lot of big innovations that you want to bring to the table here? Or do you feel like you've gotten this product to kind of, peak shape, so to speak?
The best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would hope you'd say that, because as a software developer myself, you're never at the peak, right? There's always more to do, right?
Yeah, you got to keep reaching, got to keep striving. But I think what's on everybody's mind is what's the story going to be for AI, for example?
Yeah.
How can we do better for a whole bunch of other corner cases? I know everybody has an onboarding problem, for example, or, can you truly be all in one? What is it going to mean to be all in one? And so there's a lot of innovation yet to come. I think, particularly on the AI front, for example, we're going to probably have a summary of this call. People will run it through it saying, these are the key points, et cetera. So I think there's going to be really this omni-channel AI that'll be present everywhere, which is you have a client call, or if you have a video meeting, the summaries will go up. We have a timeline, for example. Everything will end up going into a timeline. And when you can see everything in one place, all of the client touch points, whether it's email, texting, et cetera, voice calls, video calls, it's all there. How powerful will that be? And then, what insights can you surface for good from that data?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges are going to be safety, right? We need to keep all the PII, all the personally identifiable information really well cared for, not just shoved out, randomly to a lot of these LLMs or a lot of these AIs that might use them the wrong way. So we're going to be really careful around that. But I think the ability for technology to provide insights and to surface opportunities is going to be tremendous, and really take client experience to the next level.
Yeah. That's cool. I love the way that you say that. To surface insights, because at the end of the day, I mean, I use most of the like large language models right now. I play around with all of them and figure out which one's going to be best for the different things that I want to do or whatever. But at the end of the day, you want it to bring insights to you that you're not already realizing. And I keep asking it for that, and then it's not quite there yet, right? It's not going to say, oh, the client mentioned this, but you didn't seem to catch on to that. You need to focus here, right? And that's where it can really, really shine. So that's exciting to see the future for sure. Now, for accounting firms, outside of the AI that gets embedded in their software products that they may or may not know is even there, what's your advice in regards to dabbling with ChatGPT or natural language processing type systems and whatnot?
Yeah, really important to get your hands in there early just to see what they can do. I love what you're doing. You're probably looking at Anthropic. They have something called Claude, which is really quite amazing. Obviously, OpenAI with ChatGPT is extraordinary.
Yeah, Perplexity is really great for sources and research.
Yes, they're the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones out there but they shine in their own very specific way right now. And without being in them almost daily, you're gonna miss out on what that is, you know?
I'd sign up for all of them, frankly. You know, if anybody has an interest, as you know, Jackie, we're talking about $20, $30 a month for OpenAI or with Anthropic. It's so incredibly inexpensive. And for the price of a coffee or two, you're getting access to something that, even if you only ask it a couple of questions a month, are going to keep you aware of where things are going. And I think that's extraordinarily, extraordinarily important. Mm-hmm. And I think the investment is so strong. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but the way things are going to change and the amount of administrative work that are going to essentially fall away very quickly is going to make accounting firms extraordinarily valuable. You know, when we say that, you know, how many firms in the last couple of years sold out at maybe call it 1 times revenue? Mm-hmm. The answer is a lot.
Yeah. Maybe the most in the history of accounting firms. I don't know. I don't know if we've seen those statistics yet, but
I think you're right. We saw 18% of like the labor force leave accounting, right? Mm-hmm. Which is extraordinary. Massive burnout, all sorts of problems from that. But if you look at where the AI is going and where with Liscio, you know, how much labor we can take out, like right off the top without having to go full AI, just good modern internet technology. That's it. Mm-hmm. I think what we're going to look at here is these firms are going to be worth multiples of what they've been worth over the last 3 years. I don't think we're going to see owners selling their business at 1x revenue anymore. It's going to be some much, much larger cash out because the value of the clients are going to increase proportionately with the reductions in how much admin work there is to handle it. Mm-hmm. And the AI is going to be a big part of that wave. So definitely worth keeping a finger on the pulse there and making some small investments in subscriptions and just trying them out.
Yeah, for sure. I think though it's important to state that along with those efficiencies, you have to make sure your pricing model is adopting to the new technologies and whatnot as well, because hourly billing is, I mean, pretty much kaput at this point. I mean, with technology, it's going to take 2 minutes to do something that's normally 2 hours. And if you exponentially multiply that, you're not charging jack schmack for the efficiencies. You have to charge for that value proposition that you're bringing to the table and that value you're providing, right?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's the wonderful thing about this AI thing, right? It's called artificial intelligence, fine. The reality is the human factor of how we're going to continue to relate to one another, it will actually be vastly improved. I think a lot of accountants don't want to take a call, et cetera. They're too busy. We don't want to context switch, put the phone down or pick the phone up. And
I have to admit, I don't like phone calls personally. Yeah. Just text me.
Yeah. But if your job were entirely different, right? You'd probably be like, great, I get a chance to talk to my clients again. Because that's the best part of the job. Anyway, the thing's running, they're paying you. You got this great thing. It used to take 2 hours, now taking 2 minutes to your point. Of course you want to talk to, client A, B, C. How are you doing? Right. That's going to be, I think, the wonderful part about having client bases is going to be this really, really closely knit group of professionals and their clients and their clients are going to be constantly getting value. right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really, really, really excited about. I'm a bit of an introvert as well. Like I went into accounting because I didn't want to do that all the time.
Yeah.
But I also think that if we're really delivering and things are going great, of course we want to talk to our clients more. How you doing? Oh, you had life event? Awesome. Tell me about it. This is how we can help you prepare better for the future.
For sure.
Lot more
Yeah. I mean,
advisory.
it's freeing up that space for you to start more proactive thinking, get more education, more knowledge, the age of the knowledge worker, so to speak. It is really exciting to think about what that looks like. What do you think an accounting firm today is like compared to one? Do you think it's 10 years from now that we would see a dramatic change, or do you think it's 20 years from now? I mean, what are you thinking timeline-wise, how dramatic a change this might be?
I think some firms are going to be realizing extraordinary benefits inside of 24 months.
Okay, wow.
Like full facelift inside of 24 months. And I think it's, if you look at how quickly Claude and OpenAI and so forth have come along, and just a couple of really geeky data points. ChatGPT 3.0, the cost for companies such as Liscio to use them to power, advancements, those costs decreased by 97.5% over the last 18 months.
Mm.
At the same time, the power of those models increased about tenfold.
Mm.
So we're talking about orders of magnitude improvement in 18 months. If we do the same thing in the next 18 months, the AIs are going to be incredibly robust. And it's hard to fathom how fast these things are moving. And so firms are able to take advantage of them. And I'm not just talking about accounting firms, but also vendors, right? We as software vendors are building a lot of this stuff in with costs that are approaching zero and power that's, going to be greater than just about any staff we can hire. It's going to be a sea change. I think a lot of firms are going to kind of step into them kind of pretty slowly, but there are some firms that are racing full speed ahead saying we're all in on this. And you'll start to see a lot of that really advanced digital transformation hit, I think, in 2026.
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting prediction. Yeah, I know. I love geeky stats. So that was all really interesting to me. ChatGPT 01 was rated an IQ of like 120. What is the average IQ? It's less than that, right? It's less than 120, I think.
120 is great. Yeah, 120 is a very, very confident individual.
He's doing pretty good.
Yeah, 165, I think, is the genius level, right? And it is, I think a 165 IQ is something we'll see by 2026.
Wow. Okay. Well, you heard it right there, folks. That's the end of the show.
If I'm wrong, call me and that kind of thing. But I think our ability to tap into this is maybe a little bit early. But it's clearly close. I love you have the 120. That's exactly the same data point we have here. So
okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, okay, I won't get into that. My daughter was rated 3 IQ points more than me, and so I'm always very frustrated about that. But
that means you did a good job.
Yeah, I guess. I'm like, you had more opportunities than me. So we got in this debate. She's 10. And we get in this debate the other day about how your IQ can still grow from childhood to adulthood, and how is there a possibility for adults to still grow an IQ or not? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, she's going to do some really, really amazing things. And her IQ is a bit higher than, ChatGPT 01 at the moment. So
that is great. See, you're doing it right. I should be really, really proud of that.
Oh, I am. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about security. There are a lot of firms that are getting more help, I think, in the last probably 1 to 2 years. Smaller firms. There's more vendors coming along saying, oh, I can help you with your security policies. But before that, it really felt like they had no help whatsoever. Do y'all specialize in certain firm sizes okay, so it's all over the board. What is your advice to firms that are like, where do I start with security, protecting our data and whatnot?
Sure. I think number one entry point for cyber criminals has been consistent for the last 10 plus years, and the IRS is constantly harping on it. Mm-hmm. But it's really business email compromise. The bad guys, email is open to everybody. Mm-hmm. And we saw this actually early, and there's a pattern here that works, which is banks and other financial institutions moved us off of email years ago. I think it was oh my gosh, I didn't want to guess now, but it was more than a decade ago. Most of us stopped using email with banks.
Yeah.
And we moved to the app. And it was so seamless. And we were so much happier that we all did it, So going back to this idea of just basic, good, modern internet technology, our clients are already there. And so if business email is the number one entry point, and I think whether it's the NIST, IRS publication 4557, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, state of Massachusetts, state of California, both have really strong privacy acts. They all say the same thing, which is never send anything with sensitive information over email. Mm-hmm. Like that's just table stakes. And what's happening is some firms have used maybe some encrypted email out. The problem is the clients will always send it back over email unencrypted.
Right.
And so some firms have kind of said, okay, we're going to do something different, which is we'll use text messaging, which means all of a sudden we have PII, personally identifiable information, on our phones. That also doesn't meet the criteria. So I think the recommendation is look, if that's the biggest gap and that's where cyber insurance companies and everybody's focusing and that's where criminals are, mm-hmm. then the goal is to really move to working like a bank. And that should be approachable for firms of all sizes. So we start at $40 a month. You get a whole bunch of features and it's just easy to clean up that security loophole. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to use it day one. That's not the point. I think if we look at how we started using banking apps, we all got on board with it because it was simply better than email. And I think that's the same pattern that we would recommend firms follow. Make it easier, make it simple, start now, and then over time, you'll just naturally bring everybody over and it's going to save everybody a ton of time.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. So I had a client that was switching their payroll system, and I still can't to this day, none of us can figure out how this happened, but the client the president of the company received an email from an employee saying, hey, use this routing number for my new payroll direct deposit. Mm-hmm. It was complete scam information, but how did they know that they were switching payroll companies? How did they know that they were literally asking within 24 hours of that date for their payroll direct deposit information? I have no idea. It was so sophisticated. Maybe it was just luck of the draw. I have no idea. What do you think?
Probably not luck of the draw. These cyber criminals are now full-blown professional, organizations. So what we're seeing is you'll have outfits out of, let's say, Russia, where there's hundreds and hundreds of employees. What they're doing is they're constantly throwing out these hooks on email, and they're waiting for one person out of every N thousand to make a mistake. When they make a mistake, what they do is instead of going in there saying, hey, send me a bunch of gift cards, which is lower stakes and lower probability, a lot of times they will just sit there and monitor the email. So you have somebody sitting there watching all the emails coming and going, saying, oh, there's something here now. There's a wire transfer that's going to happen, or there's this other transition, something of interest of theirs. And then they're going to strike. And they'll have been reading all the employees' emails, et cetera. So they know the tone of voice. They know, do you refer to them as Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, mm-hmm. or do you refer to them as John, right? John or Jane Doe. They're going to know exactly what the pattern looks like. And then they're going to essentially hit that target when they view there's an opportunity. So they're just waiting there. And that's a big deal. And again, that goes back to why, a lot of times we talk to a firm, we'll ask how much sensitive information is moving through email in your business? Valid question. And most of them have tons. And I think that's just one of the nice little security loopholes that, moving to the right system starts to help firms address, proactively.
Mm-hmm. So how does that work with Liscio? So you set up a client, do they get a text message that asks them to set up their portal through a web link, and then they do all their interacting in that web link?
Yeah, just like the same thing that happens with their banks. We just say, hey, we're moving to our own portal, and our portals are fully custom branded. So it looks like, Bank of America, you go there, it looks like Bank of America.
Nice.
A lot of old vendors that have had portals, it looks like the portal name, right?
Yeah.
But we actually put the full image that matches the website, all that kind of thing. We even brand the button colors and so forth the client sees. So they know they're in the right place, first of all. And if they know the right place, they're like, oh, wow, my firm has their own real portal that looks like my bank's. It looks like I know I'm in the right place. So they'll get an email invitation, just like we did with the banks. Every time you send them something, we'll send an email just like your bank does. We go a little bit farther, which is if there is something you need quickly, you can just text, and we'll text to the personal phone. But we have the client always opt into that. The client can opt in or opt out. So you don't want to, send something the wrong way. And then we have email integration and so forth, which is if the client wants to send you something, or if you need to ask for something from an email, you can just access the email in Liscio, hit a button to convert it to a secure request, and it just flips the conversation into a secure request. And over time, as you keep on doing that and you keep on putting the files all in Liscio, whenever the client needs something, whether it's a signature or to find a file or to see what you've been doing with them, they can always go to that one place because they have that habit. And I think that's how we let go of the email habit with banks and financial institutions, and we were all really successful, is just because through repetition and through constant care around the client experience, it was just better for everybody. So it's just a path everybody's bound to walk it at some point. I think one of these days, whether it's the cyber insurance companies, because insurance companies are losing a ton of money on this. I think, and also cyber insurance for most firms went up about 300% in the last 3 or 4 years. So whether it's cyber insurance or regulation and people cracking down on it, like in the IRS attestation every year, every tax preparer is required to attest that they have a compliant written information security policy. This is one of the criteria. We're not using email for sensitive data, right? So at some point, whether it's a market cost or a regulatory forcing function where people are really getting penalized, it's just a matter of time before everybody ends up kind of heading this way anyway.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, our view is that if the portal, just like Bank of America and Chase, are saving so much time on the administrative frontier, imagine how much time they've saved by not having us go to the bank for everything.
Right.
And instead get everything self-service online. They've saved tens of thousands of, hours every single day.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting that you make that comparison, because I did a keynote a few months ago around comparing the AI revolution to when we got ATM machines at the banks and what happened to tellers, right? So it was really interesting because people thought it was going to replace all these people, but banks ended up hiring more people for higher level positions because of the automation that happened with the ATMs. And so that was the best comparison I could think back on historically of what this new revolution might be looking like as well. And so that's cool that you think of that as well.
Well, can I put out a quick little data point there?
Yeah, of course.
So I think when we look at it, Jackie, before the technology came along, regional banks were rated higher than large global banks. And then large global banks put in these systems that were really, really great for the client experience online. And what happened was it flipped. Chase Bank and Bank of America now have higher customer ratings than regional banks because of the tech. And also, I think as a result of that too, because they're able to offer higher level services. They're not just there trying to hand out money, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I think there's a lot of nice tie-ins to what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So a minute ago, you mentioned your firms will announce to their clients we're switching to this new portal or whatever we're calling it. I have to emphasize that I've coached hundreds of accounting firms over the years, and the ones that are successful in a process like this versus not successful are the ones that make it 100% mandatory versus an optional thing you can join the portal or you can keep emailing me whatever you want or just send it to me however you want kind of thing. Have you had a similar experience with firms that are successful or not?
Yeah, it's funny. We have every stripe, and we've got a lot of experience watching what firms have done.
Yeah.
There's a couple of rules of thumb here. I'd say rule of thumb number one is if they have an email address, they can use a portal, right? They can check their email. They'll be successful with the portal, and that's pretty much proven. If they don't have an email address and they're a paper client, then let them stay on paper because you're not going to win that battle.
Okay.
We have had people who have gone out there and said, look, we're going to force this on everybody. And a lot of them have been extraordinarily successful. We've got a lot of firms that have 100% adoption, no exceptions. Interestingly enough, for those, if they did have somebody who said, I'm not going to do it, they would send a note with requesting a signature on a waiver saying, okay, you don't need to use this. However, you're going to sign a waiver that if your personal or sensitive business information is compromised, that we are not liable.
Wow.
Awesome. And without exception, everybody says, no, I'll use the portal.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing. And so I think there's that group of people. And then there's other firms, particularly let's say it's a multi-partner firm. You're probably not getting every partner to say, hey, look, all in right now, et cetera. We usually take a different line, which is what's in it for you, right? So we help the client understand, hey, client, we're moving to our own portal, right? In our portal, you're going to get all these benefits. You'll get a mobile app. You'll get all your files in one place. You'll have our firm in your pocket. And instead of having 3 different portals, stuff on email, stuff on text, et cetera, you're going to have one place to go for everything. Oh no, by the way, it's a lot more secure. And so we can kind of put these out in a steady campaign of just, this is why we're doing it. And you have, this much time to comply. We'll see firms with 60, 70, 80% adoption if they have an email address inside the first 60 to 90 days. Wow. Which I think is, pretty stunning for most firms.
Yeah, for sure. I have to add, if your client doesn't have an email address and you're a tech forward firm, there may need to have been a little more pre-qualification around that client. For us at my CPA firm, we specifically told clients what we're looking for or expected out of them and what they should expect out of us with client onboarding. And one of those things is that we're very tech forward. And so, if you're not really that tech savvy, or if you don't have an email address, I didn't say that, but you're probably not the right fit for us. So there's so much that you could do through just a few simple pre-qualification questions when you're interviewing clients that I think would really make that fit so much better, especially when it comes down to some of these technology solutions.
Absolutely. We saw some firms actually use this as a pre-qualifier. They're like, if they aren't willing to make the move to Liscio, we know which clients we need to let go of.
Yeah, exactly. Add them to the fire list, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Pretty clear. The instructions are clear. So
right.
we see the gamut. Everything does work to its own extent.
Yeah. Okay. So I got a couple more questions for you. One, I love to ask all my guests, what is a favorite book of yours that you would recommend to anybody hands down, and why?
Sure. May I have 2 books?
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. I have one book for people who are running firms with a lot of staff.
Okay.
And that one is a book called Scaling People by Claire Hughes Johnson.
Okay.
Amazing operator. She was at Google for a bunch of years as a product manager, and then was, I think, the chief operating officer of Stripe as they went through the roof. But her principles for really helping business owners manage people is astoundingly good.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, never heard of that book. Secondly, there's a huge lack of female business authors in our industry. And so I'm really intrigued. I'm going to go grab that one ASAP. It sounds really good. Okay. Yeah, anything else on that one before we go to the second book?
No, I think that's great for people who are running firms, and management is a big thing. And I think the other one is, if you've got a smaller firm or maybe it's just you, I'm a big fan of Unbeatable Mind by Mark Divine. It really helps, attach us all back to purpose, and makes the challenging days a little bit easier. So I'm a big fan of that one. So that's Unbeatable Mind, Mark Divine.
Awesome. Okay. Tell me real quick, what's kind of a key thing that you got out of that particular book?
It was really attaching to purpose. And I think, as we know, we all have hard days, but I think, particularly for accountants, keeping sight of why we're here, how we're really helping people, and having essentially a way to process all the stuff that goes on and keep it in a really positive light is amazing. And I think Mark's approach to it is, I think, almost like spiritual, philosophical, but within the bounds of reality. And what he did was, he wrote the book because he helps people train for incredibly difficult events, such as going through Navy SEAL training.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How can you essentially have a mental framework that allows you to stay really positive, really negotiate a lot of the complexities of life that are thrown at us? I think it's just such a practical toolkit for really thriving in environments that not everything is perfect. So big fan of that. And then that's why also I like Claire Hughes Johnson, really, really practical steps that we can take today that will make a difference in just feeling better about our context and how lucky we all really are. So
awesome. That's great. Okay. Thank you for that, Chris. All right. Last question. Well, maybe two more.
Okay.
What's the best way for people to reach out if they want to learn more about you or Liscio? What social network are you on the most, or, what website can they go to?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. My name is Chris Farrell, so it's kind of one of those names that is probably going to pop a lot of different results, like Joe Schmo,
Yeah.
But if you look for Chris Farrell with 2 R's, so Farrell on LinkedIn, and just type in Liscio, Liscio, you'll find me. I'd love to connect with you there. And then if you ever wanted to connect to me directly, I got a simple email address. It's Chris, CHRIS, at Liscio, LISCIO.me.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And last question of the day. Is there anything else you can think of, a quote or a particular best practice or anything like that you think that our accounting or entrepreneur listeners would really like to know?
Let's see. A quote for accounting listeners. I would say, now is the time. I think the profession is absolutely positively at an inflection point. Now is the time to embrace it, to make the business work for you and to make it fun. So that's my quote. I'm not pulling from somebody else there, but I really feel strongly about that.
Yeah.
I think now is the time. Everybody's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Help is here and everywhere around us. And I'm really, really, I couldn't be more bullish on the future of the accounting profession.
Wow. That's awesome. I love your optimism. Definitely a pleasure interviewing you today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Chris, so much.
Yeah, Jackie, pleasure being on. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Concierge CPA, hosted by Tax Plan IQ. We believe that every person has a unique message that can positively impact the world. If you are a successful accounting firm owner or influencer who would like to be on this program, please visit JackieMeyerCPA.com, JackieMeyer CPA.com to apply. Please share this on social media and rate us so we can continue our good work. Join our Facebook group called Accounting Firm Influencers, or connect with me on most platforms under Jackie Meyer CPA. Thanks for being accountable to transforming our industry today.